and Greg Johnson.
Okay.
Okay,
With Ellers?
so we'll call the meeting to order, and Valerie, if you'd like to call the roll, please.
Sure. So McBain,
Here,
Gow? No,
Gal will not be here.
okay. Bender,
Here.
Bushnell,
Here.
Barb Ermeling,
Here.
Brian Ermeling,
Here.
Gerndt,
You'd be late.
Gary's gonna be half an hour late.
okay. Jordan,
Here.
Minell,
That's a question. He has not answered a text.
and Nelson,
Here.
White,
Here.
and Zagami.
Here.
Right?
thank you, Valerie.
Yep.
We'll accept the motion to approve minutes of the last meeting. I'm assuming everybody had a chance to look at the minutes. Did you get that online? Any problems with anybody getting minutes online? All right, we'll need a motion to accept minutes.
So moved.
Moved by
Jordan?
Jordan. Second by Barb Ermeling. Question, Brian.
I'd like to request some clarification. Page 5, it's the paragraph that describes my question about parking lot lighting and whether that might support a charge station for vehicles in the future. The way it's stated, it sounded like I was asking for it immediately, and that was not my question. Secondly, I did not ask for free service. I did talk about a possible way to provide service in the future with a charge to a user. And finally, I'm wondering about, does a charge station require 2,000 amp service?
That's what I heard was stated during the meeting.
No, I think what was said is, we were kind of guesstimating what the service to the whole building would be.
Ah,
So not that specifically, but a building this size might have a 1,200 to a 2. We're too far away to answer that question, but just the charging station would not require a 2,000 amp service.
yeah. I've researched it a lot because I would like an electric car. And a level 2 charger is like a dryer, an electric dryer in a house.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
And a house doesn't have a 2,000 amp service.
Yep.
So with those clarifications, I'm ready to.
So Valerie, are you okay with that clarification? Did you understand what was requested?
Yeah. And also I should probably point out too that Brian Ermeling did send a clarification also, or a correction to the minutes, and that's not reflected in this copy that you guys have. And that had to do with, actually had to do with, I think, the next paragraph, or, well, no, not the next paragraph, but something about the snow storage. Oh, yes.
Second from bottom, Valerie.
Yeah.
I didn't confirm the snow storage was on site. I questioned if it was on site.
Okay, so with that clarification, which Valerie will enter into the minutes, all in favor of accepting the minutes as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you, Valerie. So let's get into our review of the revised facilities design. John, I guess, we can take us through that?
Myself or Michael,
Okay,
whoever wants to do it.
I can put it off if you want to
Yeah.
talk about it. Like, these are the ones that were sent to us this afternoon, right?
Either one, of high level, will give them what they want.
Sure.
So the plan you're seeing now is the mezzanine second level plan, which quite a bit of talk was, try to isolate all the future growth into one future expansion area. So what this plan did is originally that upper blue that you're seeing had multiple areas in there for current workers, employees, and future. So what we did is take all the current workers, employees that were positioned in those spaces and put them back off the left of the plan. So we populated the plan. Everything you see in red today are current positions with the village or seasonal summer help for planning, things like that, are populated in the red. The upper left conference room is in that item we don't have today, but we feel we need from day one. So that's why some of the blue is still there. But you can see it nicely cleaned up, that upper right box, that box will be built, or we recommend that box being built, and it just be left white box, as they call it, for future expansion.
And there's a couple different, I guess, versions that accomplish that, so.
Yeah, so really, we worked multiple ways with Michael and trying to come up with, so either way, at the end of the day, when the final design comes together, if the committee feels, we would still look at that box to be the most efficient left for future growth and populate everything else in the backwards L shape, I'd say, in the phase one build out, when the village moves in day one.
Okay, other items from last week's review?
The other item was discussion, kind of see the green vehicle parking populated with equipment. What you'll see here is a number and kind of a vehicle equipment size populated. And we've kind of went through the charts and kind of documented that with Michael to make sure everything was there. You'll see once the slide comes up, it pretty much all areas are taken except drive aisles today.
Is that the diagram showing?
No.
No, Michael's looking for it. Yeah,
Okay.
yep.
Did we do first floor yet? No.
No,
The second floor?
first floor, we have not gotten all the revisions made with the board, with the lunch, training room and kitchen area. That's not completed as of right now. But we are working on that, creating that phase, moving that wall in and looking at what that space would be, one large space. Moving the streets operational office in that little wedge shape. We're looking at that piece too. So all those are good pieces that will get implemented. They just aren't done yet today.
Okay, here we go.
So if you look at all the red boxes, those are pieces of equipment that are currently gonna take up those bays, those stalls today. So if you're seeing two boxes in there, it's because it's a smaller piece of equipment that doesn't take up a 10 by 20 stall. But there again, it's a piece of equipment that, two pieces will take up that one bay. So you can see we're also taking advantage of double stacking day one. The piece of item that's blocked in is not used every day, so it's not a problem with blocking that piece of equipment in.
Two lawnmowers, two little, what do you call those little things with tracks?
Skid steers?
Yeah, skid steers. I don't know why I couldn't.
Skid steers with attachments, so it's different
Yep.
piece of equipment or storage of goods that way too.
Okay.
Yeah, so 34 is one of our skid steers. 74, I believe is the snow blower attachment.
And this even goes for, as you see, Michael's got in the yellow in the shop on the left-hand side, so it's even equipment that we've populated in the shops too.
Yeah.
Yellow.
Yeah, so,
Go ahead, Lauren.
Are we gonna get copies? Since I didn't get anything. I looked just this morning and didn't see any of it.
yes.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll send this out or upload it.
Okay, thank you. Answers my question.
You want hard copies again on this? These were just,
I don't need hard copy.
were just distributed today, correct?
Yeah, these, like I said, these are just fluid, and as we're working through them, it just takes time to create all the design options and put it together.
And I'd say if you printed this off, it'd be really hard to read the numbers. So being able to zoom in is best bet for that one, but
I don't think there's a lot of questions on the garage.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess the one question I did have maybe on the second level is that what, just making sure that that was what the committee was looking for, is how that would be arranged so that that corner was left unfinished, correct?
We're talking the blue.
The blue, correct?
Okay. And what's happening in the white?
The white are circulation stairwells or pieces of furniture, so the color just doesn't populate over the top of it.
I mean, to the right?
Oh, that's roof.
That's the rub.
Okay,
Yeah.
oh, wow. That's a big change.
The only,
It was like that.
yeah, that was always roof there.
Oh, yeah, you're right, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. I was thinking of the downstairs,
Yeah.
okay.
And the difference that we did, we created here, remember when you came up that main stair up left? The check-in window was off to the north or to plan right, now it's off to the left. We like this layout because staff could still meet somebody and just take them right into that conference room that's in the middle, and not have to bring them back into workspaces if they wanted quick conference rooms on the second floor too.
I think that one is too. Where is the director of planning though?
Upper right.
Oh, there, okay, good.
You have an elevator built in here?
Correct, the elevator is right there and that'll go in no matter what.
All right. So we're ADA compliant and all that?
For sure, yep.
Okay.
That elevator will work the same way, so if you remember that lower level lobby that's totally secured, even if you take that elevator up, you're up in the secured area up top.
Right. Okay.
Let me know when you're at the end of this and going into financial. I just want to make a comment. It won't be popular, but I'm going to make a comment.
Lauren?
Perhaps any strong, I don't see, you mentioned about having an upper level, small lunch area with a sink and
Yes.
a refrigerator. Is that marked on there or not?
I'll get that back to Randall, I don't know if it got populated.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the review of the design? If not, we're gonna move on.
Can I just make a comment?
Go ahead.
Not popular, but going to the first floor, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. I've been thinking about this a lot, is the entire shower and locker room. I just want to make sure that moving forward, it's like putting grass out there that we have to maintain forever. You know, who's gonna take in showers? Who's gonna clean all this? It's not gonna be like a hotel where it gets cleaned every day. If multiple people are using it, will they want to do that? And is there a need? We don't have showers right now. We have one, but it's filthy. Go ahead.
If you're done, I'm.
Oh, yeah. You know, I did a little homework on this. I went around to a lot of construction places. I went around to JD Tube Bending and a lot of mechanic shops, a lot of auto places too, because they get very filthy. I'm thinking of all the different people out there during the summertime that, you know, have to go home, you know, sweaty, dirty, whatever, change clothes, whatever. And I just wonder, with such a huge commitment to that room, is that really necessary? And I gotta tell you that hearing running on your lunch hour and a little basketball, I don't think that equates. I don't mind hearing the road crew, if they're actually gonna use it though, but if it's left there unused, that's an awful lot of expense to sit there. I see this whole building being used by the community in some way, some form. So we're gonna be housing the equipment that takes care of the whole community. There's gonna be people populating the offices that are gonna be taking care of the residents. The boardroom, whatever is happening in here is the whole community, except that. That is strictly staff, and currently it's in the middle 30s. And that's a huge commitment. To me, I feel that, I don't know if I can handle that question. And I feel it's a little entitled, to be honest. There's a lot of people going home that are, you know, there's people making fish fries all night long that go home stinking like hell. And yet we're asking those people in this community to pay, you know, for 30 some people, maybe 50, 60 sometime, to be able to have a locker room. I mean, it's like a gymnasium locker room. It's beautiful. I'm sure I've seen them. If it's anything like Oshkosh and Little Chute and the ones that we toured, That one in Oshkosh was unbelievable, and I would bet that's pretty much on par with this. So, I just want to throw it out there. I know it's unpopular, but, maybe.
Can I ask
Go ahead.
question for Michael? And right now, we don't have much of a locker room, shower room, but in your opinion, Michael, will this be utilized? Are individuals gonna come in dressed one way and change when they go to work, or are they gonna, it seems to me, that's a good point. It seems a lot of people would, wear what they wear and what they're gonna wear to work all day and come home and take a shower. Will that amount of space be utilized?
Naked people at a workplace scares the hell out of me too.
Right.
I know it's funny, I know it's kind of jokingly, but, I just think we have to keep it, when I look at that first floor and I see that area, that's a huge commitment to that. And right now, I know Keith has made a comment since I've been here that he came in after duck hunting one time and actually used the shower. I think that's the only time he has. When has anyone, I'm sure you've sent people home, but if you've sent them home, if it's 10 people in the last 10 years or 5 years, it'd be way bigger cost savings if we didn't have to put that in. And just send them home, have them change and, you don't know if you're gonna get dirty, so are you gonna have more clothes here? So just a thought. It does not have to be answered tonight.
Okay, Barb.
Yeah, well, I guess my thought would be, I would think we would have to have at least one shower for each. Just because there has been times when some of the street crew, not the office staff, but street crew, have become contaminated. And
Contaminated is a different deal because we're gonna have wash stations
Right.
out in the building.
got it with the sewer pump, that's what I recall. And he was covered, he had to go home, and he does not live that close by, to change clothes and take a shower because we didn't have.
Well, that's once.
They do have their uniforms delivered here and picked up and everything here.
Okay, now I knew that. I know the uniforms are.
And they have lockers where they keep them now.
I just think the maintenance, we don't have to keep discussing this. We can bring this up next week. We don't have to bring it up at all.
But
I just think it's a big point.
I think Michael has some things
Aaron.
to follow up on Aaron's question.
Michael, go.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Want me to go?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, the wrong guy.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm in the wrong position.
So, we do currently have lockers that the staff keeps, their uniforms and other items in, which is open to the shop, kind of where the maintenance bays are. I guess I haven't kept a tally on how often people use the shower. I know there are guys who have used it in the past. How frequently it's used, I don't know, but, would it be used? I guess, I think it might be, it would be, maybe, I don't know. I can't predict the future. I know some people would, I think people would use it, but as far as the locker room goes, staff does keep their work boots, things like that in their current lockers that they have here that, they're not changing necessarily from, complete clothes changeover, but, they might put their t-shirt on and take off their work shirt, then leave the greasy work shirt here and wear a t-shirt home. So, those things do happen.
So each employee, not necessarily office staff member, but more so the drivers, workers, road crew, they will be assigned a locker.
Correct. Yeah, they currently have lockers in the shop.
Because if you look at this, I think it's deceiving. When you look at that blue space, very little of it is showers. Most of it is just floor space or locker space for the staff. So that's that's a tough one.
I think Lauren, you were first.
Lauren.
Yeah, I have a question for John. in the original version, we had a street foreman's office, and there's talk about locating it where that blue is.
That has not been positioned yet. So there's the lunch training room and it has not gotten worked into the
Okay,
plan.
thank you.
So on the bathrooms, I just want to give some historical piece related. This is 30 years for me doing this, and most of our work is 5 to 6 of these a year, just doing municipal audits with the employees. I can tell you, every one of those, the number 1 and 2 things that the field employees want is good locker rooms and shower rooms and restrooms and in a break room. So I think outside of us, if we're challenging that space, we should go back to those employees that would use it. I reached out to a couple facilities that we've done recently to try to get to see the use of them. The one thing that they're saying that they probably do a little differently now, and it's more to the change in the world we're in, is maybe creating, and this came up maybe in an email I thought I saw, is more of a unisex room that's a combined shower, because it helps address multiple things in our world today, whether it's transgender, that maybe a shower or two that's in a unisex room that multiple people can use, and that we want to look at here to cut footprint down too. And then leading up to the finishes in these rooms are concrete block walls, like you're seeing here, with the epoxy paint on. The floors are concrete. I think the tile, Mark, that you're, is any wet walls we have. So wherever you have a toilet or adjacent wall, by code, that needs to be tile or a hard surface. So pretty much that's the limited area of the tile. The shower stalls themselves are acrylic. They're not tiled showers. The area outside the tile showers, which is, we call the dressing area, there again, by code has to be a hard surface. So then we tile those. These are set up pretty much exactly what you're getting at the new safety building for police and fire. I would tell you, these field guys are usually want the same amenities police and fire have. So I think however we want to massage the square footage, the area, I think we can do that. And
I'm not questioning the field guys. I'm not questioning the road crew. I'm questioning administration.
Sure.
And I don't think we should be building these for administration to have, this is a horrible word, but the luxury of being able to take a shower when really the need is for the road crew. And we should be building it for the road crew. Bob, go ahead.
With that in mind, the number of times that the office is going to use it isn't going to make any difference on the current size, I would say. The only thing that you might have is the size of the lockers, and then most likely, my assumption is that they're going to have the office, or potential would be just the small locker type of thing, where in reality, a lot like our gym lockers were back in high school.
Oh, geez.
You know, that's all they are, is a 1 by 14-inch locker. You're not looking at a lot of space as far as that part is concerned. The only thing, you know, I don't know how many of the lockers are how, and so on and so forth, but with what I have been involved with, and I was involved with a truck dealership for a number of years, and it got to the point where when you're turning around and working on road vehicles, et cetera, and the mechanics turned around, and when they had the opportunity, because of all of the stuff that comes in on, the fact that they could even just clean up halfway decent before they went home made all the difference in the world. Even to the point where some of them turning around, and you said they have lockers now. Think of the fact that you want to walk into your house or any place in your house with a pair of boots that you were working on at work. You're talking metal grindings, salt, grease, all of that stuff. If they have the opportunity, they're going to have more, they're going to use that more often if they have a true facility than they currently have.
Lauren,
Yeah, I think if we go to the point of downsizing this shower and locker space for road crew, then I think we need to think about at least providing a locker in each office for somebody to hang their clothes, their purse, or whatever, because, first off, granted, this building's gonna be fairly secure with, a place to hang your jacket, if it's not in a coat rack in the central area. Because when it's out in the central area, believe it or not, it's subject to theft. Someone rummaging through your stuff. At least, a facility in each one of the, you could just have a metal locker like you do, but one that you can put stuff in, not just a book.
Brian?
I guess when I look at this chart, it does look like many of the offices already do have lockers in them. So my only point to say the locker room, I like the idea of, number one, the unisex, kind of like college dorms. You go in, you have your own private area, you use it somebody else. But are these basically figured out for every employee today and growing for 40 years having a locker? Or is it for the field plus 25% of the office staff?
Yeah, so as the chart shows on the far right where it says locker, that means a locker in the locker room. So it says 0.5 for the office people, that's a half the locker. So even in the future office, we'll say 0.5, that means it's in this room. It's not a locker in their office. So it was planned for this space we're talking about.
Okay.
I don't know whether it's germane, but City of Wausau, Rothschild, Schofield, Cronenwitter, do any of the other municipalities have any similar kind of situations? Rothschild, I think, is fairly new. Cronenwitter is fairly new.
Well, we just expanded Portage County's, that was built in 1984, and we just doubled their locker room and break room and lunchroom. So, what is that, 35 years? That original facility was built in 1984.
I mean, Cronenwitter and Rothschild, they're municipal centers that are newer. Their public works facilities do not work out of those buildings. They're separate, so, I don't know off the top of my head what those look like.
So I guess to that question, Brian, I just put out a question to what's called the Peer Assistance Resource Center through the Wisconsin City County Managers Association. I got a few replies. Administrator Downey says that they have an exercise room, which I believe is there for the fire department. They open that up to their administrative employees and many use it. And then the locker room is used a bit for people who want to clean up after working out. We don't designate the locker room for administrative or public safety. It's just a set of locker rooms. So they have a locker room then that serves their police, fire, administrative, their entire staff. You know, we have separate facilities though. Oshkosh. They've said they've done 2 similar buildings in the last 20 years. Advises to make sure to have accommodations for all of our employees, both present and future. Oshkosh was a facility we visited that John, I think, had designed for the public works facility anyway. Having modest set of facilities is not only helpful to avoid potential gender discrimination, it also sends a message we're open to have a more diverse workforce. The cost for the extra square footage will be worth avoiding future headaches. He agreed with Richard's perspective on making locker rooms available for other staff. And then City of River Falls says they included a single shower changing room in City Hall in 2009. It's used for multiple purposes. It's a small room, has exercise machine and TV. Can use for employees taking a break. Our operations building has male and female locker rooms and is used daily by a large percentage of the employees. We have a uniform service. I received also a reply from the city of Middleton. It was more of a overall plan. I guess I'm trying to find quickly whether or not they included any kind of locker room here, but I don't know the answer to that without looking through
I'm
this
familiar with
somewhere.
their facility they have.
Okay, so what do they have?
They have a full.
Okay.
Okay. I brought it up.
Okay,
We're done.
all right.
Okay, we're good. Let's move. I'm sorry. Well, I'm not sorry, but I concede. How's that? I concede.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just wondering, is there any possibility of doing it so that there is unisex, you know?
Well, I like what you said because
Yeah, I think-
I do a lot of camping.
Yeah.
And I also go to a lot of, truck stops when I'm traveling. And I see more and more of a locking shower, you'll have the bathroom, the men's here, the women's here, and then in between, you'll have, so you have only 3 here, you could get 4 or 5 by doing that. And having that so that, if it's open, it's open, if it's not, it's not, it's locked. You're private, where these are kind of not private, it's just it's a deal. So I would definitely say you shouldn't hinder the women, nor should you hinder the men, so with only one in the women's, maybe if they had the opportunity to use the men's too, something in between, I don't know how you draw that up.
Yeah, I think we take advantage of that. I think
Yeah.
Oshkosh was referring to that.
That's a smart idea.
That to take advantage of that universal the space, because then anybody, even if it's a public function going on, it's one room you can control where they're going into. Now we don't have to let them in the back vast locker room where personal items are. Maybe it's just a unisex. So we will definitely incorporate something.
And that would be lockable, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Yep.
because I never thought of the public function, they would not need to be in there at all. Okay.
Yeah, so we could create that little unisex area
I'm done.
for outside use too.
Okay, so we'll continue as envisioned for the moment. Any other questions or concerns on the facilities design before we move on? If not, let's get into the project costs and financial impacts. Who's gonna handle that one?
Well, I know Jessica's on the line.
Okay.
Greg Johnson, today I worked on a PowerPoint, so I guess coming from the perspective of the administrator, I put together what I thought would be perhaps addressing some of the questions that people have brought, or what I think that people have regarding the financial impacts of this project. So Michael, I know you have control of this. If you would, we can go through this quickly.
Yeah, let's just briefly go through this.
This is just a draft right now, so, I guess, question is, can the village afford this project? Then, of course, in the end, what's it gonna cost us? So this is
Speak up.
by no means finished.
So Brian can hear.
It's by no means finished. I think Jessica gave me the initial feedback that it kind of works for now anyway. So to kind of review our current situation with our debt, I don't know if we need to go into the reasons or how we borrow money, general obligation bonds, general obligation notes, revenue bonds for utilities typically. Go through our current situation with the debt. We have been frugal over the last, many years. We talked about that initially. But I think the message really is that the frugality has kind of caught up with us. We have some deferred needs, facilities, as we're talking about now. The public safety building is being addressed. Aquatic center, we've addressed some of that and are in the process of doing that. Of course, we're talking about the municipal operations center, administration and public works building. And we have streets, as well as utilities. The equipment side, we have made a lot of inroads on that over the last 5 years or so. I think that situation with public works has gotten much better, as well as fire and police. I think they're taking care of their needs there. So trying to find some comparatives, like benchmarks, if you will, relative to other communities. But with respect to our debt, right now, having done some recent borrowing last year, our current GO debt amount is 12.26 million, which is 18.2% of the capacity we have by law. We would have theoretically additional capacity to borrow another almost 55 million, or to borrow up to 55 million, I'm sorry. That graphic is supposed to show, I think, where we are historically. and has been dropping, as we kind of pointed out. The village's financial policy is that we not exceed 50% of our debt limit by law. I guess you can go on.
So what would that be then? 18
50%
plus
would be,
54?
27, let's say 27 million, give or take, and then.
Okay, so 30, okay, got it.
So we have, just to clarify, you have how much capacity?
I think it's in the next slide here.
Okay,
Well, we have 55 million of capacity right now based on our.
With the 12 already, with the 12. Right, with the
Correct.
12.2
Move on,
cents.
let's go to the next slide. I think it's
Okay.
described there. And maybe Jessica or Greg can jump in if I'm missing something here. This was just intended to show the bar chart on the right, and these will have to be worked on. Is showing some of the regional community comparatives. I believe. Can you read that, Michael? I can't read it, sorry.
Yeah, so,
In terms of where their percentage of,
this is the city of Schofield, city of Marshfield, city of Wausau, village of Cronewater, village of Rothschild, city of Merrill, village of Plover, city of Wisconsin Rapids, city of Stevens Point, and the village of Weston.
so we're just showing where we are relative to some of our neighbors. Just as kind of a point of reference.
Excellent.
I think you go.
that's where we are currently.
Currently.
Correct.
With the additional debt, what would it look like?
So, I guess, move on, we're gonna, I guess,
Well, no, look, if the low one there right now is at 12.26, right? That, a million? That's currently where we
percent
are,
of their limit, okay?
or percent.
So,
So if
this
you double,
project, along with our other borrowing, is projected to take us to just under 50% within 5 years. And then it's gonna ramp up and then it's gonna ramp down. We have a slide here that kind of shows that.
okay.
This was just trying to show for a village resident, what percentage of the tax levy and even what the dollar amount on the tax rate per $1,000 of assessed value, how that breaks down.
Can you
So-
just read those off to us? I can't read those very.
So the blue, dark blue is the village. I should just have this on myself.
So the village is 29.3%. The orange is DC Everest School District, which is 41.5%. This gray is North Central Technical College at 6%. And the yellow is Marathon County at 22.9%.
So this is the historical 5 year, most recent 5 years. Oh, that bill has broken down, yeah, and the other slide just has the average dollar amount over that time.
Okay, that's helpful, thank
Of
you.
The average total tax rate, $21.62 per 1,000.
And this is based on which tax year?
This is tax years, well, this would be the 2016 through 2020.
It's the average.
tax
5 year
year.
average.
Average, okay.
Our rate this past year, I think, was 2313 per 1,000. Is that right, Jessica? Maybe she's muted.
That's right.
Okay,
Okay,
all right. So then, again, this is just illustrating how the tax bill breaks down right now. I guess we would probably think it would continue to be breaking down about that one. All right. So what's the title of this slide?
Current situation.
This must be the municipal tax rate, is that correct?
Yep.
Again, looking at this is the local,
Yeah, so
this is the
again,
local, some other area municipalities.
What is the dots represent? what is the breakout there?
This data comes from the Wisconsin Policy Forum. Anyway, they used to put out the document called the municipal facts. Dot, I can't, I have to clarify that, I can't remember what this was.
But the overall
What are the
debt,
titles on the right and the left again?
okay, the overall debt is the blue bar.
Yeah, so the blue says municipal,
Sorry, yeah.
so the left is municipal property tax levy per capita. And then,
Okay.
property tax base, residential percentage. So I think that's what the blue dot is. I think the blue dot is your residential percentage and the bar is your levy per capita.
All right, so where's Weston in that one again?
So Weston is, so do you want me to go left to right?
Sure.
Okay, so we got the city of Schofield, city of Marshfield, city of Wisconsin Rapids, city of Wausau, Stevens Point, village of Rothschild, city of Merrill, village of Plover, village of Weston, this is village of Cronewetter.
All right. Thanks, I'm sorry, I should have that in front of me too, but.
Okay. And that's with the added debt projected?
No, this is just right, what we are right now.
Okay,
Or I think this is actually data from
2018.
or 2019. The data that they have available lags about 2 years, unfortunately.
okay.
But I guess we don't see a whole lot.
So we have our Ellers rep on the line with us?
Yeah, so just to kind of finish this out, if you will, if you allow me. Just to summarize, I guess, trying to point out that we have the capacity to take on additional debt. So we have, I guess, 21.4 million to reach our 50% of our limit. That hopefully these slides illustrate that we have, you know, by comparison, our municipal tax levy is low relative to other municipalities, whether that's even in our region or statewide. And then we have deferred capital improvement needs. We have the opportunity, I guess I would think, as far as some of the other work we need to do, an obligation, like in our neighborhood street reconstructions and things like that, to essentially take care of our house, or, you know, to use a bit of a euphemism or maybe a catchphrase. So I guess you can move on then, Michael. I was trying to do an outline here, so that's kind of a outline slide. And this is not a good format here, but this slide comes out of like a pro forma that Ellers has worked with us on to look at how this proposed borrowing over the next, and the capital improvement plan for the next 5 years would impact things in the far. Go over to the right, I guess, just to, I think the main thing on this slide is to show that as the current proposed repayment structure of the proposed borrowing would reach a peak of that, you know, that 49% of our GO debt limit by the year 2024. And then it would start dropping off again. And that's of course, assuming there's no other borrowing beyond 2024. Now, I guess this is, the way this is set up, the theory being that we want to get, you know, higher payments at the front end and then have some capacity to borrow again later as time goes by, because our need to borrow and again, to take care of our house doesn't go away over time. All right?
Question?
A question, yeah. If, I guess I wasn't fine. This is going to be the debt for the building and our current debt, correct?
This is the building and and all the other capital projects that we had discussed with the board. Again, I'll point that out later, that
Okay, so this isn't that we're just looking at the building.
this is not just the
We're also
building.
doing I mean, we aren't gonna ignore our streets for 20 years for
No.
crying out loud.
This is the impact of the borrowing with the municipal center and the public facilities and the infrastructure in the neighborhood streets, utilities and
I
whatever.
just want to clarify that,
Obligation.
because I was, you know,
Right, this is not just the municipal center component,
3 bond issues coming up pretty soon.
right.
right? There'll be an item on the Monday agenda.
Maybe this question is for our Ellers rep, but is there a way to show this that not quite as detailed, but more of a kind of a broad view as it applies to the taxpayers? I mean, when they see a chart like that, it's like, well, I don't know what that means.
Right, well, we have a short PowerPoint that Greg had put together. We can show that now. I guess I was just
Okay.
trying to get through. This was my thought process on this, and I certainly need to get some feedback from the financial people, but.
Right. Okay.
So maybe just to kind of show what is included in this whole idea, I guess when we're talking about the whole capital borrowing. Go to the next slide, Michael. So this was the capital improvement plan that was, the philosophy that was adopted by the village board back in March, where we talked about the 2020 to 2024 capital improvement plan. It has, components for our enterprise funds, water and sanitary sewer, storm sewer, and then the general obligation borrowings, which include, we got a number of about 18 million there. That includes the aquatic center. I think Greg has kind of referred to the improvements related to the public safety building and the municipal center as municipal complex. And I think he's using generally a number of about 17 million for that. So we have there's other parks projects on the general obligation side and so forth. But those unfunded projects aren't included. So essentially there's about $30 million of borrowing in there on the general obligation side.
Brian, you had a question.
Not so much a question as a comment, because I'm sitting here thinking about how would I go about using this so far if I was trying to talk to my neighbor. And I could see my neighbor falling to sleep about 3.5 minutes, or if I could get that far. It seems like people's attention span these days is really short. So if I were putting it together, I would start with the bottom line. What is it going to cost? How long are we going to borrow it? And what is it going to do to add to the tax base? And if I can keep people involved long enough, I would start digging down into all of the reasons why the village is in a position to borrow money now. It makes sense. From a whole, and I've listened to a lot of discussions over the last year or so. There's a lot more in there. But if I were doing it and trying to talk to my neighbors, and the average age of my neighbors in the building I live in is 80-something, I'd flip it upside down and go to the bottom line and then try to keep them going from there. That's me.
All right, so I guess,
Well, I think that's pretty standard, is people want to see the bottom line. You don't want to see a chart with thousands of numbers and data lines. They want to see what is the bottom line for me, for my taxes, my annual tax bill. What percent is it going to increase? If you can boil it down to that simple thing that people can understand.
well, all right, so I don't know if we just scroll through these next slides. I don't know what's really gonna be catching anybody's eye. This one's showing where the debt service component of the overall tax bill is, and kind of how what percentage of that total tax rate is made up of debt service. That would go up somewhat, but probably stay fairly consistent. So, oh, the next one, this was the,
Lauren, you had a question for me.
Sure. Getting back to slide 13, I think we need to emphasize that the first three categories in there are paid for by the users, the utility, your water bill, your sewer bill, and the stormwater utility. Those three are paid, although they affect our general indebtedness for communities. It's not related to capital project. It's related to something we sell to somebody and they pay for it.
I think it makes it confusing.
Yeah. I think if you get all your stormwater, sanitary water, what people are looking at is what are we turning around and paying for with our property taxes? Not that that's not involved in something, but it's property taxes. And as Brian said, you turn around, you get rid of as much garbage that doesn't affect in reality the tax rate. Totally. So that when you get to this is what the one next slide where it says, this is the amount of money that we're turning around and putting towards debt. That's an important one because that's what people are going to ask. Well, how much of this is debt every year of my tax dollars? Well, we know that we're putting aside $1.25 million for debt every year, and it'll go up a little bit. That's what they're going to want to know would be the backup of it. And what they would want to have is our tax rate with nothing else changing. This is what it's going to be because of the debt that we're going to incur. So if our rate is 6 or whatever it is, 663 or whatever else, the rate will go up to 680 something, whatever 20 some cents or whatever it is. And they'll stay there for the remaining 5 years or 6 years, and then it'll start coming down a little bit. With what we have on the books today, and what people have to understand, and whatever we turn around and explain to them is, we can't predict what's going to happen in 5 years. We don't necessarily know what's going to be here in 5 years. The anticipation is that we're going to continue to grow, and a lot of this will be diluted by that continued growth. But this is what we know today. And I think that's what you're looking at more.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
so,
I want to see something that Bob can show to his 82-year-old neighbor.
Right.
And she actually gets a kind of a concept, okay, I understand it now. I mean, that's what we're looking for.
okay, so a variation maybe of this was something, that graphic, that the first one, this one for that.
Right.
So something like this, maybe even with then some kind of future projection, although I don't know how we project the future total tax rate, other than some kind of a trend line.
But isn't slide 15 what they're looking for?
So slide 15 then it's a breakdown of where the blue is existing debt.
Right.
Red is the new CIP exclusive of the municipal center, and then green is the municipal center on top of everything.
That one makes a lot of sense
Okay.
to me.
Yeah, that's much closer.
Right.
What we're looking
All
for.
right, and then there's the data behind this is actually in a different, I think it's a different, actually, no, it's not in a different PowerPoint. So we'll show Greg's, is there another slide here?
No, that was the last one.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know you need the data, you just need to put the dollar value on each of those sections and you're done.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. That would be, slides like this are pretty, but people would like to turn around and say, well, it's costing me $1.29 for this part of it, and 18 cents for this, and 12 cents for that. The total is whatever it is, and as we go down, it shows that the red is going to be staying the same for a number of years, and the building is staying the same, but we're getting rid of the other debt.
The blue.
The blue.
Right, right.
And when people say, well, what about anything else? He says, we don't know anything else at this point.
Yeah, that's good. I think keep that slide and the rest of the stuff, well, we can look at that, but I don't know, but that needs to be,
Right.
disseminated.
Part of the sales pitch, right?
Right.
All right, well, okay, so can we look at the PowerPoint that Greg put together?
Greg Ellers, yeah.
Greg
Sure.
Johnson?
Yeah, let's do that now.
Ryan has a question.
Brian,
I guess, thinking about that chart, hopefully the marketing person that we're gonna be talking to that would be something that I would take to that person and say, okay, now, here's what's gonna happen, but how do we make that so it's understandable to the guy on the street?
right,
Right.
yeah,
And that's a question to pose to the marketing person, not me.
or the graphic artist person who,
Yeah.
say, I can put it in a nice pie chart or whatever that they can.
A pretty picture,
Yeah.
a video, these
Sure.
days, everybody wants videos.
Okay. Okay, let's go with the slides.
Okay, so this is a PowerPoint that Greg Johnson prepared for us back in March of 2020. Is this the PowerPoint version with the voiceover?
It's the PDF version. I figured if Greg wanted to talk unless we can play the,
Well, you probably, okay, I don't know.
Well, can Greg talk us through it if he's on? I mean,
No, I'm here. So just some background on what this was. So I think back in March, obviously before COVID hit, I think the plan was to kind of have some kind of public informational meetings to kind of explain the fiscal impact of this project. So I put this together, which was obviously based on information that was available at that time. So dollar amounts have changed, interest rates have changed and what have you. But the intent was to kind of provide this slide, and then I had a voiceover that went along with it that kind of explained generally how's the project going to be financed, what's going to be the impact to the village's property tax levy, and how would a homeowner determine the impact on their home. So it was really kind of an intent to kind of be an informational piece that someone could watch that has some numbers behind it, but had kind of the audio to kind of go through and explain what the information meant. So that was the context for how this was put together. And I mean, this could certainly be modified. This was just literally a starting point to kind of give an idea of what kind of information could be prepared.
Greg, how long is this the way it's set up now?
It's only 3 slides or 4.
I mean, I think the whole presentation itself from start to finish was probably well under 10 minutes with the audio.
4 slides.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, do you have a way to play it with the audio? I mean, you can,
Yeah, we have the PowerPoint version.
on the cloud.
Michael thought you wanted to recreate your audio live.
Figured if he was on.
if you haven't been put to sleep yet, this will do the trick.
Too much stuff on your desktop, right, Mike?
Not quite sure how this is gonna work through, hey. It's loading. It says, please move this window away from the shared application. Well, let me share it. Oh, there we go. Oh, it's only gonna play through my computer. I'm not sure this is gonna work playing through my computer.
The debt service will be repaid annually through the village's property tax.
Yeah, it's gonna keep back to that. Well, can we just go through the slides without the audio then?
Sure.
Just quickly go through those, get a feel for what it looks like.
Oh. You're on the Jumbotron. Great.
Yeah, that's the kind of ones that we probably don't want
Yes, I agree.
in the public presentation.
I like the blue part, but the
Yeah.
rest, no.
So what slide is that? Is that the second or third one?
Third.
Okay, so the first one's the title slide.
All of that.
Yeah, all right,
Next one was the,
An explanation, there's
there you go.
bullet points on it, I think.
just this, explanation.
Yeah, that's
fine.
much better.
And this has a,
You can skip through that.
Yeah, I would.
So I think
That's where the other schedule with the graph would be,
Right to that.
Oh,
instead of the numbers.
this is
Yes.
The
actually,
graph would be there.
Okay.
That's a good
yeah, right.
idea.
this is actually showing the impact of the municipal facility borrowing only. Correct, Greg?
Right. I mean, if you want to know the impact on a taxpayer, here's your number. Shows a $150,000 home, a $250,000 home, and a $300,000 home. This is their annual.
Okay.
This is
that
their
would-
annual taxes for the municipal center. I mean, we'd have to update it with the new numbers, but I mean, conceptually, this answers the question. How much is this project going to cost, homes at these values?
I think just bold those numbers right across, that's what they're looking for.
Yeah, right,
Okay,
into a graph or something.
the graph is
The graph
a little
is
better
More
looking.
pleasing to the eye.
But if somebody
It's
asks,
showing the dollar amount. If they don't see the dollar amount,
Yeah,
they need to see the dollar amount.
right.
Right. This is good, I think.
this goes hand in hand with the graph, so
Okay.
what does that amount to, how many dollars? Well, it's $1.39
Okay,
or 139.
keep going.
We're talking like the right four columns is really all we care about.
Right,
Right,
exactly. Okay,
okay, keep going.
The rest of it was just the notes of our methodology. So the voiceover pretty much just went through, explained how it was going to be financed, to what term, and then explained that chart and kind of went through and explained how a typical homeowner could take the valuation of their home and determine the impact of this project on their tax bill using some of the illustrations that were on that chart.
Okay. Lauren,
I have a question for Mr. Donner. Our TID one debt is paid off in 2031, is that correct?
Right?
So the TID one comes back on the tax roll and helps pay for some of these things, correct?
It
Yes.
changes our equalized value and, I don't know, Greg, that's maybe a question for Greg and Jessica.
Yeah, the TID would come on after the closure and that would cause an increase in the value. So that's going to impact things, beyond 20, well, if the TID stays open over the remainder of its maximum life. But yes, as soon as the TID closes, then the valuation will jump and that will, impact your, tax rate for debt and operations.
okay, question, just the explanation for those of you that don't remember, that TID is the Tax Incremental Financing District. That's, I don't want to explain the TID, but that's what it is they're talking about. That's basically an area in the village where taxes have been deferred and paid upfront towards the development of I assume that's the industrial park?
right.
It's an industrial. It's to pay for the infrastructure that was put in to create it.
Right. When that's paid off, then you get the taxes paid into the tax pool.
Greg,
Oh,
do the equalized value numbers include the TID district or not?
Not until the TID closes, it doesn't, because until the TID closes, those, that increment value is benefiting the TID. So I mean, the numbers that you see here are TID out because the TID isn't closed as of yet.
right.
So at year 2031, that's when it closes. I think that's what you're asking about.
Right.
Correct.
To reflect it after.
Is that reflected in that equalized value number?
No, not yet. I mean, I think when we're doing this, I think the closure of the TID district, at this point, the TID will close early if no other project costs are undertaken. So I think the closure year for TID district number 1 is really going to be driven by, to the extent that other project costs, mainly infrastructure projects, are funded within the district.
Right.
So conservatively, this does not factor that in. So at some
Okay.
point, yes, the value is going to go up. It's just a matter of when.
Right, right.
Okay. Any questions so far? John?
Sometimes the way I've seen this presented is that you take it over 10 years, you show an average household, that and then you take the average of that column. Instead of saying just 1 year, you take it 10 years and say the average household for a $150,000 house, I can't quite see, it, is, $207. So I'm just throwing it out there instead of, otherwise if you just pick 1 year, everyone's gonna say, well, what about year 5? This way you've put it out for 10 years.
You average it over 10 years?
Correct. I'm just saying, if you want that big bullet point, because everybody's gonna ask, I live in a $150,000 house, what's it gonna cost to me per year?
It probably works to average it out better than, they're gonna have questions of why is it higher this year than that following year? Now it's lower, now it's higher.
That's right.
Yeah, I think an average works, or the total over the, 20-year term of the debt. I mean, all of those are kind of ways to just kind of boil this down to a general impact. But, this chart was just kind of intended to show just how it impacts different valued homes over the life of the debt. So this can be distilled down to however you want to present it. This was just kind of the starting
You
point.
want a total of 10 years, I think that gets to be a pretty big number and people might be frightened by that.
Yeah, I would,
I'll take little bites, but when we see a big bite, it's like, oh my God.
I wouldn't totally, I would just say average of 10 years,
Average.
per year, it's $120 for a $150,000 house.
And they can do the math, thinking, oh, that's gonna cost me $1,200 in 10 years?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
for the first 10 years, it's $130. For the next 10 years, it's $120
Yeah,
per year.
something like that.
Right.
Okay, Brian.
And if the accountant that works somewhere walks in and says, well, how did you come up with that number? You go to that chart and say,
Right.
okay,
Mhm.
you keep it in the back pocket
Right,
or in the folder.
right.
Yeah. Okay, good. Think we're done with that part.
All right, thanks, Greg.
Well,
Sure. I can stick around for a little longer if you need me, or just let me know.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody have any other questions for Greg right now?
I think we're good.
No? Okay.
Okay, let's get on to our public communications. We'll start with frequently asked questions or the facts, which you should have in front of you, I think.
Yeah, just to follow up, last time we asked input on what people would think, would like to see as frequently asked questions to have answers prepared for or addressed. So we've got a lot of input from several of you. What we didn't include, Wusheng had found a document from a project, I think it was in Byram Township, New Jersey. Actually had it was a 6-page list of FAQs. We didn't compile those on here, but we'll make that available to you off of on the cloud drive. You can get a feel for how they did theirs. I mean, this is just text, so I suppose it doesn't really, that's something we may be envisioning later. But I guess it just gives you a flavor of what some of the other questions are, this list that Nate put together from the other emails and other documents that were sent in. So we.
Okay. So let me try to think out. If I'm a resident and I'm asking, say, question 6. I think it would be helpful for us, at least on the committee, to have the answers right here. Because like if we got a call at home or something and we didn't know the answer, we could say, well, I'll call you back, as soon as I find. And then we go grab our little cheat sheet. And there's the answer. So I don't know how much work that would be, but, and maybe some of these questions may not be asked or necessary. Certainly some of them should have an answer here for us. Lauren.
Well, I think in some of these questions, why is it so fancy? You have to define what you think is fancy, what I think is fancy. Probably might be like this.
And I wouldn't know how to answer a question like
Neither would I.
so some of these are a little subjective and
Well, yeah,
I don't know
with
if
something
you
like
need-
that, so you get that question right to you. And on, how do you mean? Make them actually, it might be one or two little things that they feel are fancy, not the entire deal. So if they think this or this, it might be easier to handle, but try to break the question down. So that's how I would handle that one. So I wouldn't let it be an over-encompassing question.
because there's
Something
there's
sparked,
no end to that
no,
discussion.
something sparked them to ask that way. So either they heard it from somebody or they saw a drawing and what do you mean, or how do you mean by being so fancy? And it might be nothing. It might be the retention pond and they don't understand it.
Or the fact is, why do they have tile in the bathroom? They don't even need tile. Well, it's a code issue.
Yeah, it's a code issue, yeah.
Right.
Well, now they've toured it, yeah, right, okay.
Right. But
I'm sorry.
Shane, go ahead. Okay.
But even with that, whether, okay, well, how come they have this big entrance when we come walking in with all of this lights and all of the other stuff? Well, part of it is, again, it's not necessarily for everything that way, but it's security, it's presentation, it's all of those things.
Right, ventilation and heat,
Right.
circulation.
Shane?
It's not really fancy building. It's a modern building.
Right.
Modern is the right word, yep.
So
So,
it's what it is.
Keith, you want somebody to sort of take a stab at going through and answering these, or how we want to handle
I
that?
guess my thought was, as we get these questions and staff can work on them, I mean, unless.
Yeah.
unless committee
Well,
wants to
there's
do it, but-
some are duplication, some are
Right.
forms of duplication, but I will definitely help if you want my help on that.
Sure. So,
I think we should have some nice canned answers. It's a canned answer. Everyone gets a cheat sheet.
Right.
And then if you don't think the cheat sheet helps, then you say, you know what? That's a great question. I'm gonna get back to you.
Right.
Right.
Because that way, everybody is gonna be answering the same way.
Yep.
Which is better for us as a whole to try to
Right.
promote this project. If he gets 7 different answers when he asks the same question, there's gonna be doubt there somewhere.
Do you have these questions in the P drive?
I think it was just put together today. I don't think it's.
Or do you have a say?
I haven't saved it yet, sorry.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with all of you. Last night at the Public Works meeting, right? No, that was Monday. Monday, when you were talking about the building committee, I did not ask, 'cause I didn't wanna sound like an idiot. I didn't know what FAQs were. So when you explained them and spelled them out, I go, oh, now I can actually write some, and I said, but I felt like an idiot, because I didn't know, I thought you wanted questions from us, I didn't realize you wanted,
And you gave me a hard time at the.
frequently asked questions, yeah.
Could be from either.
61 years old, and that.
So let's go with the full title instead of the,
Sure.
All right.
My thought was that there may be some duplicate type questions and this.
Yeah.
We're saying that.
These questions might get rephrased slightly.
Well, we could bring these back.
But
Yeah.
We don't need to work on these tonight.
no.
We can bring this back, yeah.
Okay.
I think we should answer all these questions and write it down the way that sample is showing. Because I went through that really very detailed, take a look at it. They explain it very well. And anybody read that, I think they understand why, and if there is an extra question, we can work it out. But what they have done, I think they did a great job. Also, they include part of that, a site plan and also building assessment.
Is this what changed?
They had a building assessment, and the building assessment had the picture of the existing facility and also description of it and difficulty, what was it in the building, why they want to build this. And there is a link in there, so that's the one you can get to the building assessment, and also there is another one you can get to the site plan and also floor plan. I suggest we include the floor plan, elevation, and the site plan. And also we can include at least maybe 2 of them, one from this side, which was difficult to put the facility on it, and also one from the new side, why we decided to go to that side. So
That's good, that's good.
I think.
And we're bringing all the departments there too.
Right.
Yeah.
By doing these things, we answer a lot of the questions right there.
Okay,
Okay, so
we'll work on that.
if you wanna have a stab at that then, for next time, we'll,
Sure.
and if you want us, some of us could probably.
Well, if
take a stab
anybody
at it
wants
too.
to take a stab
We
at it, I
could
guess.
email back and forth.
Yeah, let's do that.
Oh, sure.
I guess. Is there any benefit in going through the questions just to make sure they're all being covered that people believe we need to be answering?
Well, I don't,
Well, somebody might have an idea 2 days from now. I mean, Brian might come up with something, geez, I don't see this
Yeah.
one, or he thought of it. You
Okay, so
never know.
everybody has the question.
Yeah.
so
Yeah, and the floor is still open on the question.
Right.
If you have suggestions, Lauren.
So one of the things that I did when I submitted my FAQs, I actually put down, says, explain this, explain that.
You had to say FAQs. Cute, very cute.
Frequently asked questions.
Okay, thank you.
But I put down, since, most general public doesn't know, as an example, why is the building so large? And then I said, explain that the building is planned for present needs, bringing almost all our staff, vehicles and resources to one central location that's spread throughout the village. Those are the things that I felt that, however you respond to this, we should not just say, well, because it had to be, explain. And one of the things that I have found in writing some of these things is the shorter the answer that's complete, the better.
Right. Absolutely.
Because
agree.
you and I know, and all of us know that once you get past the page, you.
Right. Very short, to the point answers.
Yes.
And no technical jargon either.
If you can't answer it in 3 sentences,
You engineers, guys.
you're going to have this blank look.
Yeah, no stories, no stories. Yep.
Okay,
Steve Minell will not make it, just so you know.
okay. So we'll continue the process here of putting answers to the questions. And we'll keep working on this, okay? Let's move on to the public information strategy. Keith, you want to talk to that? You want me to talk to that a little bit about?
well, if you want to start, that's fine. Or if
Okay,
you'd like
so-
me to start, I can too. Either way.
So, Keith and I and Nate, this afternoon, we met with Jeff Busha, who is helping us develop some of the visuals for the newsletter that we're gonna be putting out. We're also working with PR firm. We just started with them. They're gonna polish up the materials that we're sort of developing, make them look really good and so that they have really readable text and it makes a public impact when you read it. We're continuing that process right now, kind of behind the scenes, I guess you could say. And we've been working on when we want to initiate the first blast of a newsletter to the residents of the village. We talked about the date, and maybe we can use a little input here. We talked about when we want to begin the communication process. We had initially talked about the 23rd being the date that we have to have something out. We've changed that a little bit. As we looked at the, Thanksgiving coming up and Christmas coming up, and the date that we have to report to the board, to the village board, we modified the dates to send out our initial flyer. Keith, you want to go from there? How we've set it up, how we're looking at it now?
Yeah, so what we were looking at is time in between now and end of the month to get the materials ready, kind of polished up. But what we want to do is prepare a flyer, a single page, both two-sided, to introduce the project and then talk about, justification on the other side, but send that out with the tax bills. And then, along with that, then we would also start putting out the email blasts and whatnot. And then, there would be some, you know, and then direct people from that flyer to the website, where we will have more detailed information. You know, as we talk about, FAQs or some of this other information, we want to probably printing and making available the more general stuff, the overall stuff, and then allow people to find the detail then on our website. And I think we talked about having this pretty well with all the information out by, say, the end of the year.
Right. So the key that we're trying to explain here is that we're following this concept that, you know, everybody gets the tax bill at the end of the year, you know, first week in December. And people like to see their tax bills. I mean, they don't look forward to them, but they don't like them, but they want to see them. So we thought, well, let's introduce a project to them as a part of their tax bill, their tax statement. It would be a separate flyer. It would be stuffed in with the envelope, because to us, that sort of represents both sides of this project, meaning what we're doing over here and what they're getting over there, which is the tax bill that's going to pay for ultimately the project. And it is a little risky for that strategy, but that puts it all together in one mailing. So people get their tax bill and they get this flyer, professionally designed and readable and looks good. And it tells them, okay, we're doing this project. We're building a new village facility. And we'll stuff some information into, and here's how it's working. Here's the committee that's working on this. And it's mostly citizens that are working on this committee on your behalf, and reassure them that our highest priority is to keep them informed, okay, of what we're doing. We want to let them know what's going on, and this is where we also, unless anybody objects, this is where we would also list this committee with your phone number and say, if you have questions, call one of these committee members that you probably know. Because we're here for you. We want to answer your questions. And that mailing would go out, like I said, the first week in December, I think, when the tax bills come out. So we're sort of bringing those things together. And it is a little risky because, like I say, tax billing is not the most popular thing that people read every year, but it's being, I think, straightforward and honest with them.
It is a very serious envelope.
Right.
And when you first started saying that, I'm going, oh, Jesus, it's negative enough. But the point is, it's right. It's not something that they're going to look at and not look at. It's in their tax bill. They're going to look at everything in their tax bill.
Mm-hmm.
And it does correlate to what we're doing. Can I just ask, John, when is activity going to start in that corner? Anything, cutting trees down, anything? Not for a while?
As soon as demo would be, we have it out. We said January 1 would be around the war.
That might be perfect. If you can get that to happen, some activity, anything, to happen in January, because they're gonna be looking for some progress.
Right.
I think that's a great idea.
Right.
Tagging on that, to get when would you like to have bids for the whole project go out? To try to get in to the construction season early.
We were hoping in February, so I think if you're waiting for that January thing to give us the go-ahead to start, but we won't hit that date.
Right.
Right.
Wait, what? What?
If you wait till feedback from January to tell us to proceed back up with design drawings, construction documents?
Oh, no. Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because right now, as you know, we pretty much slowed down and are throttling back on construction drawings.
No, not at all.
No. You gotta go.
Well, that's the last I was told, that's,
So I guess to John's point, or,
I guess part of this process, just by putting this process in place, it would not have been prudent for us to say, just continue and finish it as we had it without the committee's input. We got input on some things that were changed in the floor plan, so I don't think we would have been doing the right thing with the village's money had we said, just keep going. So I think that's why, it's again, why this committee was put together. So we made sure we were all on the same page of what was gonna be done. And I guess what John said.
We're talking two separate things here. We're talking what we're doing with the committee, the board, and the bidding procedure. And I think that should continue, at full tilt. Then over here, separately, this is how we're gonna inform the public. And then as long as we're not starting physical signs of before they get the first.
The notice.
I think that's what Mark is saying. He wants to reassure us that they're not gonna see shovels turned anywhere before they get their first blast.
Right? If I was misunderstood there, that is what I meant, right? I mean, just the activity of tearing down in January, but we gotta let this thing out. We gotta go.
Right.
so we have to finalize our floor plan before he can continue working on.
I'm done. I will
Okay.
shut my mouth. I'm done.
So we need to bring back
Yeah.
that first floor and second floor, maybe next meeting, say, okay, yep, this is
it.
because if we keep moving walls, that's where the issues are, so.
Yeah, and then the board has to approve, I'm assuming.
Right.
And then, John, they approve, then you can go full tilt on your drawings and notification of bids and all of that stuff.
We have a meeting this Monday.
You may not quite get it in the first part of February, but sometime in February.
yeah. Ideally, we want, so if we go up February, 30 days, whatever that is mid-March. We don't want to go much beyond that because
Right.
people have secured work
Yep.
prior.
Right.
And now we're not getting the best numbers that we were hoping to get.
Exactly.
We can't shoot for January? To let? No?
Our team was all on board. I got mechanical people that this was the job they were working on right now, that I told them to stop.
Okay,
Well, I think it's the consensus here that we don't want them to stop.
right.
Okay.
I think it's,
But I think they have to because we've got to finalize a floor plan.
Right.
Otherwise, you're wasting a lot of time on the mechanical
Right.
engineers.
Right.
Yeah, now, if you guys sit here today and tell me, you know what, outside the office, the back here, there's plenty behind the office here they could be working on,
sure.
so.
If we look at it next week, right, we're meeting next week, right?
I've got another event I gotta get to. Okay,
Oh,
sorry.
Then, we said that's good.
Sorry.
You could then start with your final.
Correct, and what I would say is, we moved that date up whenever past that mailer, so then January 15th go out for bids and instead of waiting till February 15th.
Right.
I think the sooner the better.
John, in the last meeting, you had talked about, moving some walls around. Did you guys, when would opportunity for us to see the?
Yeah, so prior to we
Oh,
did
you
all
did.
this, we did all the second floor, so maybe if you got some time afterwards, we can walk through those.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay. So we're clear that we don't want to hold anything up
okay.
with dates. Whatever you can be doing with your team behind the scenes, do it.
Okay.
And I think it's a reasonable assumption that you will be doing this project. And we need to keep going on it and not get ourselves boxed in with a later bid date that we didn't anticipate.
Okay.
That bid date is critical.
Right.
Said for a decent bid.
Right. You gotta make,
At the end of that line, and you're gonna be paying a premium for this project.
You want the bids when the contractors are hungry.
Well, I can tell you right now that they're not real hungry right now.
Really?
no,
We got about $9 million and we've never gone into the winter with $9 million worth of backlog. This is the first year we've ever been that backlogged. So I think no matter what situation is, some people have slowed down a bit, but there's a lot of work out there. There's a ton of work out there. And there's, Scott, you probably know that, and anybody you talk to,
The interest rates are so low, everybody's doing work.
so.
Yeah,
But
The only advantage that we have is there are some really good contractors that will look at this as a really close to home.
yes,
If they had the chance to lock that in early, they'd lay off.
you're right, Joe. They
Transportation
will take this one if it's this early, because not everybody's fully booked.
Right.
But they would salvage at something they could keep in town.
Plus it's
Really need to get it out sooner than
a
later.
pride issue too, Gary, so.
Yes.
okay.
Project.
Yes, sir.
Could you put the schedule together? When is your first advertising? When is the second one? When is the bid opening? And when is the award of the contract?
Yeah, I'll bring the invitation for bids. I'll have it to Michael. I wrote the dates down here, so for next meeting, I'll have that draft of the invitation for bids.
Well, actually, what I'm suggesting, if you do that, it can go on the agenda at the right time for approval by the board. It doesn't have to wait,
Yep.
okay?
We could have early, we could have a
Or you can
special
even have a
meeting.
special meeting too.
Well, if you give us a date, then you can do that.
Right,
Until then, I think you just wait.
Yeah, I guess, so Jen just reminded me that we will, probably need to take it to plan commission too for approval, so we should start looking at the exterior, finishes and other items.
Site plan?
And site plan.
Yep,
That's a tough group, isn't it, Gary?
It's terrible.
okay. Any questions on our public information strategy? It's a little bit short, but we're still working on it. But those are the critical dates anyway, the first newsletter blast, and that'll also have some social media blasts going out there to those who have, social media accounts, whatever. And we'll probably have a draft of what that's gonna look like by next meeting. We're just kind of fine tuning it right now. But in fact, maybe, I don't know if we could get that out ahead of time, Keith? The first newsletter text that we're looking at.
Are you,
Just so everybody can come back to the meeting next week, knowing what it's gonna look like and
okay,
no issues.
yeah, we can put a priority to that, try to get that.
Okay.
I'm not gonna guarantee it's up by Friday, but maybe,
And we, there's a couple of us that are working on this behind the scenes, just so you know. And that's Keith and I and Nate and Jeff Bushaw and our PR firm we're gonna be working with.
all right, yeah, I guess we all realize the time sensitivity of this project, so it's something
Yeah.
we're putting high on the priority list.
Okay.
Gary has a question, Mark.
I'm just gonna be bold here. I understand you realize that it's gonna be a difficult time when they open the tax bill. I just hope it's not enough to cement the pissed off mind to say, you know what? Now they've already got their first impression of it and they're negative because they got their tax bill. They're pissed off because of the prices, my taxes are gonna go up. And that's all they're gonna do is squeak and squawk to their friend about it. And it's already coming off their tongue as a negative already to their people they're communicating with.
Yeah.
I just want to be cautious of that. And
Oh,
make
yeah.
sure that either if we can do it prior to that.
A separate.
yeah, I thought of that when
I'm
you was
serious
talking
because
about opening up his tax bill, and I thought,
Oh, my God.
boy, they're mad enough just looking at it, let
Well-
alone getting that to say,
I just want to bring that up because I think I would probably go, really? And now you're gonna stuff this in my face? Maybe if we could do it earlier, I don't know what the rest of the committee feels, but, I think that's kind of dangerous just because I feel it's gonna get a bad rap right off the bat.
Yeah, there's some risk to it.
Yes, there is.
We kind of debated that risk factor. We concluded, and maybe we're wrong, we concluded that that's a very honest way to do it.
It is.
We're not sneaking it in, we're hitting them right between the eyes and then we'll take whatever comes. Because we will get some responses, I think.
Well, what if we,
Whether or not that-
what if we would put it out to the, and I know there's a cost associated to it, but if we put it out prior, and then there's a slip in there that says, reminder, look at the new building facilities, or look at, reminder, keep up to date on the new village hall, or, you know, whatever you want to say, at www, whatever, where you can find a link to it as a reminder, maybe at tax time, but I think you're gonna hit somebody when they're probably in a bad mood already when they're opening their taxes. That's my opinion. I don't know what the rest of the committee feels about it, but.
Well, let's think about that a little bit, because it is a valid point. We kind of wrestled with that today when we met. And we said, you know, run this past the committee and maybe we'll get a different reaction. So let's go on this.
When you first mentioned it, I had that immediate reaction.
That's my
And
reaction.
as you talked about it some more, because again, I'll use my building, and it's not the typical place where people live in the village. But that newsletter that comes out, if there's more than 3 people beyond me in the building, and there's 50 or 60 people live in the building that actually read any of it, it goes in a pile or it goes in the recycle. That if it's separate from, you know, the advantage of putting it with the taxes is that they're going to open it and they're going to read it.
Right.
You know, the disadvantage is,
Well, they will open it up and they will pull out their tax bill and it'll go.
Yeah.
Well, you know, when I get a tax
The
bill,
building has to really grab them.
right,
I just think it's a.
which is where the PR guy comes in. You know, it's gonna look good, it's gonna look nice.
Social media blasts.
Building.
Yeah, we can prepare, I think we could prepare that with social media blast prior. You could do something on the front of the letter with the building, Weston's new facility, or proposed new facility on the front of a envelope or something. Something that catches their eye, but.
Here's another way we looked at it. The advantage we thought of sending it out with a tax bill is that they're gonna read it. The disadvantage is they're gonna read it.
Right.
So what's the risk, really? We want them to read it, and we know there's gonna be some reaction from some people. I don't think it'd be a major reaction, but some people will react negatively. But that may be as far as it goes. You know, they bitch and moan about it, you know, what they're doing now, and
Just
but
remind me
they're
that
gonna read it.
send it out so I can take some happy pills. All of our phones are probably gonna blow up. Right. And they're gonna be angry. So we better be prepared for it probably. And maybe some people, you know.
At some point, we have to deal with that.
Yep.
I mean, we're talking spending millions and millions of taxpayers' money to do a project that looks really good. But who's responsible for answering to that? You know, the village board is gonna make the decision. And they're gonna get it anyway. I mean, they're gonna get some feedback and negative responses. I see us as kind of being a buffer almost between the residents and the elected officials. They're gonna take some heat over this.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna take some heat, but we're not running for election. At least most of us aren't.
I'm just be honest with you, Mark. My first instinct of when you said it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a disaster. After you're able to explain that, I understood. But the problem is I'm opening my tax bill. You're not being able to, when I open it, you're not in the background being able to explain to me what's going on. That's where I feel we're gonna have a bit of a disconnect. That's my only point of it. After you communicated, I felt better about it and an understanding that your points of it. But the consumer that's opening their tax bill is probably not gonna have that opportunity for somebody to be sitting there explaining it to them.
unless they call one of us, and then we try to explain it best we can. We have our cheat sheet in front of us with the answers to the questions when they start throwing them at us. But what does everybody else think? I mean, this was kind of a 50-50 proposition. Is it too risky? Or is it something we just need to do boldly and get it out there, because we're gonna get some reactions anyway? Let's do it.
I'd like to give an input.
Aaron?
Yep, go ahead, Aaron.
Okay, so when that tax bill goes out, it's not a Village of Weston tax bill. That tax bill represents county, NTC, school district,
Yeah,
and
but
village.
who's the target?
The
It's always the village.
The village.
It's the village, and so let's say, you know, with what happens with DC Everest Area School District with the building referendum, it's not as if DC Everest was able to input into that tax bill what our plans are. So I think that tax bill should be a factual thing. What is actually happening? What has been levied? But as far as this specific project, I think that's almost a separate issue, probably a separate mailing, because, you know, that slide that you had earlier, 37% of the property taxes are actually for the village. The rest was everything else. So I don't know if I would want to put that in that area.
I think whatever whether it winds up the tax bill or not, I think a little short blast on social media and the website, there's information coming in your tax bill, so that maybe it might mitigate some of the shock. I mean, granted, they're gonna say, oh, now what?
I don't know if it's the shock or if it's the moment when you open it, that you know that you've got all this money that's gotta come from somewhere, right? And then you go, oh, now they're gonna present me a $15 million new building? You gotta be kidding me. I think it's, what I'm trying to explain to you is, if you can get somebody in a different mood, don't get them in the frame of mind when you just send them a big bill, right? If they're opening the mail and they can read that there's a building going up, they might be in a whole different mode or function in their mind than they are opening that tax bill, then seeing.
I agree, a preliminary hit, not as hard as your tax bill. Hey, this is what's going on. In particular, we talked about having a sign at the site, so people actually know. I mean, nobody knows what's going up there, and that'll stimulate some interest in it.
Yeah, it will, but I personally think we need to put something out on social media explaining the reasons why, what's going on. The facilities are old, a really nice layout that you blast out there. You know, get that out there for a couple days a week, then put signs up. But if you put signs up, you're gonna get bombarded with people going, what the F?
And I think that's the reason we also need to kind of solidify the frequently asked questions.
And maybe we don't have to decide this for sure tonight. Maybe the best plan then is to give ourselves a week till our next meeting, and then we'll finalize, okay, when are we gonna send out the information? How are we gonna do it? It doesn't have to be final decision, okay? Because it's obviously, you know, a borderline question. Is it worth the risk or is it not? You know, good news, bad news, I don't know. Brian?
If it's not with the tax bill, then it's gotta be no more than one page.
Right.
It's gotta be big print. It's gotta say, we're gonna build a new building that's gonna house all of the the department. It's gonna cost $15 million. And the $150,000 house, the 200 and 300, this is what it's gonna cost you with that 10-year average.
Estimate what it's gonna cost you.
Yeah, because it's gotta, the old thing about you gotta hit that mule in the forehead with a tuba rubber to get their attention.
Right.
approached these projects in the past, what would you feel if you got that tax bill and enough? I mean, I'm just asking, professionally, how would you, and how have you guys approached these in other communities?
Yeah. The number one thing everybody's asking, how does it affect me? So all they're waiting for is I own a $150,000 house.
What's it cost?
And it's costing me $130 a month.
Yes.
Or a year.
Yes.
They don't care. Most don't, they can criticize the facility all day long. End of the line, they only care how it affects.
But ultimately, how do we present it? I guess that's my question. Do you present it in a tax bill? Do you present it prior, make a big blast out, maybe mail, emails, or, you know?
Every community is done almost exactly the way you've done it. And they've had open, before COVID opens, and you'll get 6 people that show up.
Mhm.
I think what happens is we're doing a great job trying to predict. You gotta just give it to them and let them come. We want to hear from them. And, the village is over the time. We've had public meetings where it's been, nobody comes. The minute you put up, it's costing me $130 a year, then certain people are start squawking or talking. But then you can educate them with the fact sheets, with everything, why, and then they usually go, I understand, we need it.
I don't like it, but I understand.
Yeah, I understand, we need it.
I just think in the tax bill is a bad timing. I dealt with taxpayers for lots of years. And I can tell you, the first thing they do is they look at that tax bill and they see it went up. It's gonna cost them with with all the agents, all the municipality, the county, everything. They're gonna see, it's gonna cost me $100 more this year. And then they look at the next thing and it says, oh, by the way, we're gonna build a new municipal center and it's gonna cost you on a $150,000 home, another $130,000, and they're looking at their tax bill and they're going, you gotta be kidding me. I just think the timing is, you need it to get out there, but I don't think it should go with the tax bill. I really don't.
I have another question, and it relates to the $130 or whatever that it cost us. The reality is that that's the amount that it costs us for that building. But the amount on our tax bill won't necessarily be that amount, because we're getting rid of some of our debt and we're adding this part in. So if we had, in theory, if we didn't do anything, we wouldn't need $1.25 million in our budget to pay debt. But if we do something, we still need that 1.25 plus a little bit more. So I'm not sure we're telling them the right number, but we're not telling them exactly what it's going to do on our taxes. If you understand what I'm saying.
I thought that figure, that old debt is figured in.
Well, there's different ways this can be presented, and Bob was pointing that out. So the last slide that Greg had in his presentation was looking at the debt for this project, irrespective of anything else we have borrowed. That graphic with the 3 colors shows where it is. I guess what you're saying is we should show it relative to the baseline of what our current debt is starting out, and then carry that forward. And sooner or later, that, if you remember, the green part of that line drops below, the green part of those bars drops below that line for where our current debt service is. So that's another way that could be presented, but again, we're not, it's assuming that there's no additional borrowing there either.
I think that's a little fantasy as far as us not incurring debt for other projects. I mean.
Well, you're right, Lauren. But, and because my background is accounting, I think I'm thinking that way, I guess is what it amounts to. And maybe the best way to present it to the taxpayer is that it is gonna cost this amount, that $130 per $150,000 home. Now, the other part of it, when somebody turns around and asks, the other question is that what I'm gonna be paying on my tax bill? The real answer should be probably not. It will probably be something less than that. But I can't tell you exactly how much that is.
Especially from year to year.
Right, exactly. Because we know that every year we have additional development, which dilutes the tax dollar rate, which we're not putting in that because we don't know what that is. But that is part of making the taxpayer understand what's actually will happen.
So the growth this year, as far as all the information that I've got, is $32 million in increased increment.
Right.
Is that correct?
I
I was reading the bond, I
remember
the
that.
bond statement.
Well, the amount that we could increase our taxes was, what, $60,000 or something?
Yeah, right. But still, our total valuation for the village is predicted, is so far this year, from reading the report, especially the bond issue statements, $32 million. That's pretty amazing, if I'm interpreting them correct.
So we probably can't decide for sure tonight then on this. So I think give ourselves another week.
Right.
Think about it. Talk to some people.
Yeah.
Talk to your neighbor or friends and ask them, what would you think? And see what kind of reaction you get.
Right.
At some point, we have to tell them what we're doing. It's only a question of when do we tell them?
I think it'd be better sooner than later.
Right.
Likewise.
Not only when, but how.
How?
Because once I open my tax bill, right, then I look at it.
Right.
I'm already prepared to know that, okay, my tax bill, okay, I paid $5,000 this year, next year it's gonna be 5,130. Now I'm acceptant of that.
Right.
But if I'm gonna open that thing up already in a bad, I don't, how many people in here, I mean, even everybody, who's gonna wanna open that without more explanation after the fact? Who would have the impression of opening up your tax bill and then having a flyer behind it that says, look at the new building we're building? And it's gonna be $15 million. Anybody in here, who's gonna be happy with that? Well, I'm just asking, who thinks that's the best approach to share it with your community?
I would say at least a week before tax.
Right.
A week before, yeah.
As fast as we can get it there, that's my opinion. I mean,
The sooner the better.
yeah, I mean, even if it's 3 weeks from now, 2 weeks from now, whatever. If we could.
Well, we're gearing up to do it soon, so we've got time.
And I think it's worth the money to spend to send it out as a separate document.
Separate?
Right. I mean, we're talking about a $15 million project here to spend, I don't know what it is to mail to every resident. Perhaps Mr. Donovan knows. But in this grand scheme of things, it's an investment I think we need to make.
Okay. So next week on the agenda, we will finalize this question. And then we'll be done.
Okay.
When does the village newsletter go out next, Keith?
Pardon?
When
Next
does the
village newsletter?
We haven't had one.
Well, this is gonna be a special newsletter. Otherwise, I think our regular newsletter is gonna come out after the first of the year.
Okay.
Kind of late.
So we will meet next week, the 18th, same time, same place. And I do have to kind of get moving along here. I've got to get out of town tonight, but any last minute questions or remarks before we adjourn? If not,
Oh, yeah, I did have one, actually.
go ahead.
In the questions on the building, I lost my question thing here. Is there still space if we moved all the voting to the municipal center? We did a lot of changes on that ground floor, remember? And I guess I was just wondering if at some point in time we decided we wanted to have all, like we do now at the, at the bowling alley there, would we still have space to do that?
Yeah, part of that, we're still kind of looking at and getting numbers of how much square footage actually, what it takes at the bowling alley. So by next meeting, hopefully we'll have those numbers.
I mean, not necessarily that we would have to do it immediately, but I would like that option that we could do that.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
And granted, it's a good deal at Weston Lane, but we cannot guarantee that we're gonna be able to do that.
As long as we can find, but. you know.
One thing our clerks reminded us about too was, the central count for all the absentee ballots currently is done in this boardroom. So, if the intent is to vote at the same facility, we should have two locations, one for the absentee ballots likely, and then one for the in-person voting.
So it's for the presentation, John, you mentioned that the shell is gonna be built, it's gonna be empty. Great place for people to vote.
Second,
Second floor.
Second floor though.
First floor.
no, that's a
No,
second
that's-
floor. That was
So
a
what is
second.
that gray area that you presented on the first floor?
That's your,
The lunchroom.
lunchroom and stuff.
The former lunchroom,
Yeah,
training room. Is that shell gonna be built or is it gone?
No, that'll be built. Remember, we talked about
Big,
making
big
it.
empty building, a
No,
room.
it's not. No, it's not.
We're gonna shrink.
Hang on, wait a minute. Perhaps I'm again wrong, you can tell Mark this. The diagram that was up there, you had that large space that formerly, was a lunch.
Michael, can you put that up?
It's still there,
Is that enclosure still gonna be there?
still there.
That's still there and a finished space. It's gonna be smaller. We're looking at making it smaller in one room. Right now, remember, we had the lunch training room and a kitchenette down below, two different rooms last time. We're looking at making that
Okay.
smaller, making it one large.
So that drawing that is in transition, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, that straightens it out.
So that's not something that you've got, that you saw earlier, was it?
No, but the upper floors that we talked about, we had all that ready to go.
Yeah,
Motion to adjourn. Made by Brian B, seconded by Barbara Ermling. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. See you next week.
Thank you, everyone.
I would say, get rid of the station.
You know who you were?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm not lost.
Split out of here. Okay. Now, we know when it's all of these that are in the design.
Kind of a green list.
And that's where they.
That I that's my.
Over to the on-site.
this one is small enough.
Sure.
Here. And this room is bigger. So you see the window. So I mean, I'd still.
What
Dividing the line.
Yep.
What vehicle did you do?
Oh, yeah.
we're gonna have to realize when we talk about absentee,
We want to do that.
Yeah, we'll break it out. Okay.
Yeah. it was-
Perfect.
To do that.
Did you want to, Gary, did you want to say that?
Here's the second floor.
on your planning.
Wrong one, sorry.
Plan commission, yes.
He's gonna find the right one. Make sure you hold the boarding. The other.
Still not it.
But I mentioned, that's what we all have. We can't, we are
You'll
modifying.
have all.
Windows open, Nate yells at me.
There it is. Not yet.
So this is just future stuff here.
Correct, Gary, everything is. Actually, we've got, there's a better one here.
That's a,
Yeah,
That's
that's
the
awesome.
first-
That's
yeah.
great. I mean, it's not gonna be a huge savings, but at least.
I think.
Yep, and then
So there's two options, I guess.
this room will stay, there's two different schemes we came up with. both. Oh, they're the same.
Well, you should talk to them.
Thing I was gonna ask.
Go
back to that.
You only got one. Back to the first floor. That's first floor. No. 1 second.
that's that second one because.
But my biggest thing is.
This is the open space.
Oh, yeah, that's.
All one floor?
That's not what's gonna happen.
Come on, Mike.
$30,000.
That's why we even that.
Yeah, this is all gonna be gone, so this will be gone.
Kayak thing. That's why we had to pave it, because we didn't let.
First hour back, instead of having. My point, my feeling is. Yeah, some of the, made us.
No,
It could be that they. Very.
Take care. I think there was talk of whether you needed them all.
What
or
I'm saying
not.
is, we're not looking at somebody.
No. We'll have a little bending down here. From this whole corner now will be one big. When we put a divider.
How many square feet is that? I mean, you started at 2,100 square feet.
No, remember this wall's coming over. This outside
Right, I'm
wall.
saying, but no, right now it's 2,100. Even if you bring it over, say you knock 1,000, you still got 1,100 square feet.
But what do I know?
That's a huge friggin' breaker. How many employees do they have?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, so. You know, we're gonna populate with the chairs and tables and all that on there so you can see.
Is that,
Right here.
is that auto tracking?
Toilet?
Maybe a 30-year, maybe half of your people that set up on it, actually use the washroom.
Right now, we have, well, some
What
there's another one. Like I share one urinal right now.
How's he gotta change it? Buy that?
As far as I-
Like 6 has bought.
Regulation.
Oh, right here.
You gotta.
But the urinals and toilets are the same number.
It does, it's working.
It's really compared to toilet from a urinal.
The sound off.
Is that what you're getting at?
So, yeah, and also for the onsite, when people were talking from the hills of stand. Well, even here, those speakers just.
Sure.
Made it sound, you know, so, but I'm assuming that 3 is enough.
But what you'll find is you'll find break time.
Yeah, so
Just as many people are using
this office
as
now.
urinals.
But you gotta take up that spot in the washroom.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so
Valerie, you've heard my
the
conversation.
question is, do we worry about cutting this off, or do we just
I'd
leave
have
since
to
the
get into the
upstairs
numbers,
is,
but I
because
think
this will
based on
take
the
the upstairs wall.
man actually coming back here.
Really only one experience.
Oh, yeah, the upstairs wall, that's here, that's right. My bad. Yeah, that's probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you fix that?
Okay, yep, you guys are right.
That's it, yeah, slam sheet.
This is 10:30.
Well, that's what you give?
No.
I agree.
This is when you told me to fix it, and I fixed it. There's a new one.
How many employees do you have?
35.
Well,
But I like the idea though of having a private.
Even if you take 1,000, you got 1,100 square feet and 35. If 17 will use it, and I don't know what, if you have everybody go to lunch at the same time.
Yeah,
That means 8 people.
yeah, I wonder if he uploaded it.
Yeah, 1,100 square
It
feet.
was,
For some people, like go to.
that whole answer in there.
Yeah, social distancing.
So, yeah, I think it's gonna be fair.
So what Esther and I do is we've been doing.
That's
Good evening. Thank you, sir.
Just around our lot, 6 trips around. Every morning. Nothing new.
Yeah.
Trying to get all my goddamn yard work.
Oh, look at that.
I don't know how the hell I ever did all this before, right?
When you. Y'all done looking at it?
I
But
think
probably,
we are.
are you a lot more finicky
Yeah, you
about
can
it
turn it
now,
off.
right?
Yeah.
Where you had deadlines, to meet, right?
Right.
You do all your work.
Oh, yeah, thank you for all your comments.
Just left it to be and then.
Right.
And then-
Whatever it was, it was.
Yeah.
Oh, no. I know everything.